And welcome back to episode number 93 of Raise the Banner podcast. It is your three co-hosts as usual. Ben, I just said I'm doing a re-entry here.
But you
Benny
said
Ball Game
93.
Dearth,
Yeah,
Zach
but you said
Brewitt,
this would be episode 92. Your math is wrong.
92. You know what? 92. 92, episode number 92. Your three co-hosts, McAtour, Benny Ball Game, Dearth, and Zach Brewitt. I already have asked you boys how you doing because we just recorded episode 91. But now it's time to talk some New England Patriots, and they just went into Buffalo, and they took Benny Ball Game's 0.1% chance to win the game and said, suck it, Ben. That's what they had to say. They came in, flew into Buffalo, upset the Bills. I'm going to give you the floor, Ben, because I asked you. I said, give me your odds that the Patriots go into Buffalo win, and you said 0%, and I said, okay, can we be realistic? And you said 0.1%, and I said, okay, can we be realistic? And you said, I'm being serious, and I said, okay, you're in that mood. Can you be serious? She's like, I'm being serious. No, they pulled the upset.
I don't sound
What do
like
you
that.
have to say?
That I was spot on with the 0.1% chance of an upset. No, I mean I was. It's funny. I remember you asked me shortly thereafter. You said if the Patriots win on Sunday, they will be blank, and I said above 500.
Yeah, and
Which
that
is
pissed
not,
me
which
off
is
also because you
which,
knew that was not what I was looking for.
which is not a false statement, because they are back above 500. Back above 500? No, they're above 500 for the first time this year. So I mean, obviously, it was it was certainly a statement win, early part of Vrabel's head coaching career here in New England. You could argue, aside from the fact that he didn't score any touchdowns, you could make a legitimate argument that this was Drake May's best game as a professional football player. He looked every bit like the quarterback we thought he could mature into. I realize it's only one game, so you certainly have to build on it and prove that it wasn't just some flash in the pan, Sunday night, catching Buffalo on an off day, situation. But obviously, I look at that game a little bit of a glass half full, glass half empty perspective. The glass half full perspective, obviously Drake May, Stephon Diggs, second straight 100-yard receiving game, while unsustainable. One thing I did not realize was that he did that playing 50% of the offensive snaps. So while I don't think that he can keep up the pace. If you look at the numbers over the last two games and then extrapolate that out over a full season, the pace that he's at is not realistic. It's a pace of 2,100 receiving yards. Again, not realistic. A couple other glass half full things. I thought the defense played really, really well. They basically took James Cook out of the game. He still got some decent yards, but he wasn't the dynamic player that he had been through the first month of the season. Some guys that really showed up. I thought Barmore played really well. Tonga played really well again. He's been a big, big surprise. And then I can't think of the guy's name. Is it Curtin? He's the defensive lineman. Aside from the one boneheaded penalty, I thought he had a pretty good game. I thought Will Campbell really held his own. There's some conflicting information out there. Pro Football Focus had him not allowing a single sack, hit, hurry, or pressure. Pro Football Focus on 40 snaps had him basically giving up nothing. They gave him like a 93% pass rush win rate, something to that effect, and then an 87% overall pass blocking grade. During the game, NBC had him allowing half a sack, and Maz on 98.5 had him giving up one sack. So some conflicting information, but I thought he played really, really well. The Bills were throwing Joey Bosa. They threw AJ Epinesa at him. And I know that Bosa's not in the prime of his career anymore, but I think going into that game, he was Pro Football Focus's 6th rated edge rusher in the NFL. So I thought he played really, really well. So that's kind of my glass half full. And you can throw Marcus Jones in there too. I thought he played really, really well. The interception he had on Josh Allen was a very, very good play by him. Not the best decision by Josh Allen, but great play by Marcus Jones. My glass half empty is that the team still can't run the ball to save their lives. Even with 2 tight end sets, they can't run. In terms of yards per carry, the Patriots running backs, there's 108 qualifying running backs on yards per carry. And I forget the order, but the Patriots running backs rank 77th and tied for 83rd in yards per rush this year. So not good. The linebackers have been kind of a letdown. It's funny because Matt was asking me about should he trade Dalton Kincaid, and then Dalton Kincaid basically caught every pass thrown to him on Sunday.
I didn't trade him in Dynasty.
The Pats, that's good. The Pats, they do not have guys in that second line of defense that can cover anybody, which is really unfortunate. So any intermediate passing game to bigger-bodied wide receivers and tight ends, most teams are going to get whatever they want. Like I get that Spillane and Gibbons are good run stoppers. They're obviously very good against the run up front. They can't cover. And then obviously you have Landry coming off the edge. He's a decent pass rush guy. But overall, a very, very good win. I think that, this was not a win that I had on their schedule. I think that if I look back, I think I still had them at 3-2 at this point in the season. I had them winning 3 out of the first 4 and then losing to Buffalo. But the nice thing is that hopefully they're mature enough and well coached enough, and I think they are, that they're not going to look back and treat the Saints game like a trap game because you had some big emotional win in Buffalo on primetime national television. They have an opportunity to reel off, this could possibly be a 6-game win streak a month from now. I mean, I know that, the look ahead, you never want to do that, but these next 4 games are very winnable games. I get that you're going into you have your second of 3 in a row road games coming up this weekend. New Orleans defense is pretty opportunistic, not a ton of household names, but they do force turnovers. So you can't just kind of sleepwalk through it. I mean, maybe. But they have an opportunity to really set themselves up for success. These next 8 games, like if you, again, I just said we don't really want to look ahead, but if you look at the next 8 games on their schedule, there's really only one game that you could realistically argue, in my opinion, that it's not a winnable game. And I think it's the 5th game of this 8-game stretch, which is at Tampa, who look very, very good. Their defense is a little suspect, but they're 4-1. The offense is good. Egbuka looks every bit like the top wide receiver prospect I thought. I know we all loved him on this program. He was my personal wide receiver 1. So I'll put that little notch in the belt for me, Matt, because you were wrong. He's definitely better than Matthew Golden. But you look at these next 8 weeks and go, it's not unrealistic to say that going into the Week 14 bye, the Patriots could be 10-3. I don't know if they get there, but I don't think it's impossible to think that they could be 10-3 going into the bye week. I think, again, they're a young team that's still growing and developing. So I think, is it more realistic that they're 8-5 or 9-4? Probably, but you're not going to convince me that 10 wins before the bye, after what we've seen, is off the table.
Zach, I just wanted to let you know that he says these words, and then when it's him and I messaging and he lists out the schedule and we're talking about like expectations, and I say what basically he just said, he questions what I say.
I believe it fully because what I was going to say is I demand an apology, I think. Demand is the right word. I wasn't on last time, but before you and I were back and forth, you thought they were going to lose to the Panthers, and they obliterated them. So I am open for apologies if you're open to that. But
Ben doesn't apologize. He
just admits.
I'll have to go back.
The other person was wrong.
I don't know as if I thought they were going to lose. Did I actually say that I thought they were going to lose, or did I think that it was possible that it was?
You said it was. They were much closer of a team, talent wise, coaching wise, and they. I don't know. You may have not predicted that they were going to lose, but certainly.
I am mildly retarded, so it's very possible that I said those things, and in which case I would very much apologize because if I said that I thought the Patriots were equally as talented and coached as the Panthers, I mean, maybe the aliens that nuked Mars and it invaded my body and made me say things that I don't think. But if that's the case, then yes.
We also went back and forth on who we thought was the better team between the Falcons and the Patriots. So
that is true. Early in the season, I felt that the Falcons were. I think I gave them. I thought, if I remember right, either on par and maybe slightly better talented team. I would say now, outside of Bijan Robinson, the Patriots have a more talented team than the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I think their offensive roster is probably better. Although now with Diggs being as good as he's been the last couple weeks, who knows? But yeah, Bijan is far and away the better running back than we have. But yeah, if I'm giving my take on I guess I'll give the last two games. Buffalo is a surprise for sure. I don't know what. Buffalo was like a surprise. Obviously, going in there on Sunday night, and Drake May's first. Primetime game. Under the lights, everything else, like played as good as he could. Two of the best throws I've seen him make. I mean, obviously the one that everyone's seen is the one on the run down to Diggs by the sideline. But the one over the top to Hunter Henry, where Hunter had to go up and high point it, was just a great read. And then the one.
Oh yeah, that was that. And I would lump in, just to piggyback, and then I'll give you back the floor. I would say the pass to Booty on the sideline.
I was just going to say the same. That was my next one. I was just going to say,
is in that same category as that Hunter Henry play.
100%. That the one the Hunter Henry I thought was off when it left his hand. I thought it was a surefire. Another one of his what's become sort of a theme is a high, overthrown pass, potentially interception, and it was just the perfect air under it, and then Hunter Henry high pointed it. But it's exactly what I was hoping to see. Obviously, you mentioned that we can't run the ball, but the connection between him and Diggs is getting better and better each week. Diggs knows what Drake wants. Drake knows where Diggs is going to be. The two of them have a connection that hasn't been there between a quarterback and receiver since Brady Gronk, and even if you want to go the pure wide receiver position, it's Brady Edelman. So that's fun to see. Defense is coming together. Obviously, with Gonzo out there, it's just way better than without him. That's just a given. But yeah, nothing really to be said about anything necessarily negative. I wouldn't say about the game. I think Borregales was great. There was some concerns about him making that 52-yard field goal at the end of the game to win it. Like, could he do it? Yeah. Talked a lot about, Drake May being able to go under the lights in his first time. Borregales is a rookie, he never done that before. After missing, what did he miss? 2 extra points back-to-back in Miami. So, that was as big a kick as you're going to get. The only downside to this season so far is that they should be 4-1. If you pull Ramondre Stevenson or you don't throw a pick in the end zone, you're 4-1. You're tied with Buffalo for number 1 in the division. You're leading the division now because you beat Buffalo. That being said, we're 3-2. I had us at 3-2 as well, similar to Ben. I had us losing this game, but now you have the easier in quotes part of the schedule. Inexperienced quarterbacks, inexperienced coaches, inexperienced teams, bad teams. So.
Yep. If you ignore the part where I predicted the Patriots lose, I predicted they win this past weekend. But
exactly, ignore the parts where I was wrong and I'm always right.
Yeah, no, for me, the biggest thing that I took away from this weekend, beyond the obvious that it's a big win, it sets up a really smooth schedule over the next month. Were two things. One, it was a statement game for Drake May. As you said, this was the first primetime game for him, right? So this was the first time, and real NFL fans see him play and see his highlights, but not many of them, unless you're on primetime, fans around the country actually sit down and watch players play full games, right? Unless a player is on a maybe you watch a Thursday night game or a Sunday night game, Monday night game, whatever it may be, but they generally don't sit back and watch you play full games unless you're on and you're the only team on.
Yeah.
Okay. So they were in Jacksonville. They were in Europe last year to play Jacksonville, and they got embarrassed. He didn't really look that great. He played in that game.
Yep.
This was an opportunity, Sunday Night Football, prime time in Buffalo. This was his chance to really show up, and he did, right? The first half, I think, for both sides, was very shaky. I remember I posted about it after the first quarter. I was like, just as everybody expected, 3-0 Patriots, multiple turnovers on the Bills side, a turnover on the Patriots side. It was a really kind of disastrous first quarter for both sides. And then 6:30 going into the halftime, I saw someone kind of come and post about it. It was like, Buffalo gave that game away with the turnovers and stuff like that. And I'm like, I mean, not really. I get what people would say, but it was 6-3 going into half, right? And beyond that, the turnover ratio was 2-1 at that point. Mm-hmm. It was 6-3 going into halftime. Okay, so Buffalo was completely in that game. What really happened was in the second half, the Patriots just made more plays than the Buffalo Bills. And so when you look at that, on top of that, the Patriots literally gave Buffalo 30 plus yards on that last touchdown drive that they scored. They basically kind of handed them a touchdown. Maybe they still score anyways, but they basically handed them a drive.
Made it a shorter drive for sure.
Yeah. And, for May, he had the opportunity and the chance to show up and show out, and between, getting dragged to the ground and that play there, that he still managed to get to Diggs, whether it's the ball, the rolling out to his right and hitting Diggs along the sideline that everyone saw. What was it? 13 or 14 in the second half for 188 yards.
Yep.
I believe that the stat line, I think I sent to Ben, over the last 4 games on 3rd and 4th down in the second half, he is 18 for 18. 18 for 18 on 3rd and 4th down in the second half of the last 4 games. He basically showed the hell up and showed the hell out. And so for that kind of shows to me is he's got it. He is there. He is the guy. And on top of that, you mentioned Borregales, right? That was a big moment for me because it showed trust, obviously, in a guy like him. Not that Vrabel had a ton of choice in going with him, but it's a big moment for us to say, we needed him to show up, and he came in and made the big kick. But there is a clear belief within that team in what Vrabel's selling.
100%.
There's a clear belief in that organization. Okay, and there's a little bit of question. He came out of the comment today, and he again kind of defended Stevenson and basically was the blame's on him, but everyone blames him, but what about the people that are letting him get hit? And I'm that kind of doesn't really make any sense because he kind of fumbled on a ball that was just blatantly his fault.
He fumbled in the secondary.
Yeah, like
every time
that
it's
didn't
on.
really make any sense to me. But as a whole, what he's selling, the players are buying.
Yes.
And so those two things were by far the biggest things that I come out of. And I said this to you, Ben, prior to the game in terms of like, what would it mean to go into Buffalo and win? And again, you said it would be like it wouldn't really mean anything to go into Buffalo. And I said, you're being a jackass again. And I said it would mean a lot. Like, and it does coming out of this. Now, if they go into New Orleans and get their ass stomped, it can kind of put a big blanket on top of everything. But
Yep.
as things currently stand, those were two big things that came out to me, and I think came out to a lot of people. Like, it put the Patriots on the map, right? And it put Drake May on the map of like, okay, they didn't just beat a couple crappy teams and beat up on a lonely Panthers team. No, they went into Buffalo and Drake May outplayed Josh Allen. And that is a big statement to make on a national stage. And oh man, I know it's only been 5 years. I know, and I know
We have a quarterback
fans,
again.
I know, and this sounds selfish as hell, and people will comment and be like, poor you guys, poor Patriots fans, because many have been suffering for a lot longer than us. But it's been a rough last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and the light is there. I think as Patriots fans, we can kind of look at this and say that we have our guy at the quarterback position, and I pretty confidently say that Mike Vrabel is likely the answer at head coach as well. And quick comment as well, Josh McDaniels has done a great job so far with Drake May.
Yep.
I would like to see him get a little bit more vertical in the offense. I that comes a little bit with the lack of speed overall with the receivers, I think. But I think it will come regardless. I think as things get a little bit more comfortable in the offense, they'll take a little bit more shots. But as a whole, I really like the nuances in the offense. I really like the comfort that he's put Drake May in. He's done a very good job so far over the first 5 weeks.
I agree. The one thing they got to figure out a way, and I think this is more of a personnel issue than it is a Josh McDaniels issue, which is funny because over the last couple of days, I've heard people say like is Josh McDaniels the problem in New England, which I don't really get the thought process there, and credit Greg Bedard.
Who's saying that? Point them out to me.
I'll see if I can go back and find it. It was just like people were talking about it on 98.5, but and so
There's your answer.
not the radio people, like callers were complaining to the radio hosts that they were like that Josh McDaniels was not necessarily that he was doing a bad job, but that if there's problems with the offense, it's McDaniels' fault, not the personnel issue. I don't think that they were saying overall he's been bad. But anyway, so credit Greg Bedard for this stat, because I heard him on yesterday's afternoon show on Felger and Maz saying that without any true elite options on offense, right? Like Stephon Diggs is getting better, but they don't have a down the field passing game, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think that their biggest threats are the short and intermediate game in the passing attack, but that despite they don't have elite weapons, the Patriots rank 11th in passing DVOA after week 5, and that's basically because of Drake May's talent wrapped into Josh McDaniels' system. That despite the roadblocks, I guess I'll call it, the Patriots offense is persevering in spite of the fact that their best option is a 31-year-old Stephon Diggs who may not be 100% back from an ACL injury. Like, he's only really been out there 50% of the time 2 weeks in a row, and I get that he's balled out these last couple of weeks, which means like he's getting back to where he was pre-ACL tear. But outside of that, they and again, no shade to Hunter Henry, but like he's not an elite pass catching tight end in the NFL.
You asked Tom Brady, he's the best Patriots tight end of all time.
He is. I think Gronk dropped a deuce in his pants behind the desk, being like, what did my buddy Tom just say? So
I do have a concern though, like not concern, I guess, but I want to see Stephon Diggs come out next week and the following weeks with the same kind of energy, right? I don't like. I feel like this was a comeback game, a get back game, kind of a revenge game of sorts, right? Like, so he had a lot of extra motivation for the team to do well, but also himself to do very well, right? So what I don't want to see happen is him fall back into like, oh, okay, so I won my Super Bowl right now. I can go out and just kind of play the field and go through the motions. Not that I think he will, but that there's something that kind of popped into my head during the game and even after. So like all of his Instagram lives and how just pumped up he was about beating the Bills and talking about his time there. But again, you could even see it on the flip side of that. You could even see it on the post-game press conference when he's on the field talking to don't know her name, but Drake May and him are talking about the game, and like the two of them looking like they're just two peas in a pod. Like the connection and the chemistry is totally there, which is great to see. I do think too, like as you talk about Drake May and his maturity and how he's come along, right? That was a pure game-winning drive, right? We talk about obviously it being his first primetime game, everything else, and that wasn't something that like Josh Allen threw a pick on the final drive. That wasn't something like James Cook fumbled on the final drive and the defense saved it. Drake May went down the field after losing or after Buffalo tied it and had a minute and a half or so left. He went down, drove down the field, and got him into field goal range. And then again, Borregales kicked it in. So the maturity is certainly coming along. I do think a lot of credit goes out to Josh McDaniels and obviously Mike Vrabel for just getting everyone rallied around. Vrabel's everything that Gerard Mayo wasn't. Obviously he's a former player, played here and won here, but Mayo did not have anything as close to the level of like team building camaraderie that Vrabel's able to bring to this team. So a lot to be said. Credit to Kraft for recognizing that it wasn't working and making the move to bring in Vrabel. I don't think that I think he wanted to keep him around, and now after seeing how bad it was last year, he has to be jumping for joy now.
Yep. And like you touched on the chemistry between Diggs and May, and I feel as if I go back to that final drive, right? And to me there were two defining plays, and I know one of them for sure. I don't know so Matt, you'll probably. I mean, I'll ask both of you. I know Matt tweeted it about 800 times. The video, the play where Drake May goes out to his right. This particular play, I think you tweeted it 800 times. It's the video of Drake May. It's from behind the play, and it's like Drake May's rolling out to his right towards the sideline, and it's the up the sideline throw that's like it's like only Stephon Diggs could have caught it.
The body control catch?
Yeah. So not the toe tap. It was the one that it got them inside the 5-yard line. And the next play they scored a touchdown. I don't think that obviously wasn't the final drive, but that was a second half play. But so that play, and then of course on the final drive right before the 2-minute warning, I want to say it was Deion Dawkins damn near had Drake May for like an 8-yard sack, and Drake May just shrugged him off and found Diggs, and instead of it being like a 6 or 7 or 8-yard loss, Diggs gains 14 yards. So
I was waiting for Chris Collinsworth to say something about Patrick Mahomes every time they showed a replay. I was
Mahomes could have made a
play. He wanted to say something about Mahomes. Yeah. He was itching to bring him in, bring him up somehow, and that was his only way to do it. Yeah. But no, he's allowing himself, and maybe this is Josh, maybe this is schemed, maybe this is just him kind of free balling, but he's allowing himself to show the athleticism that he has on these rollouts, on these, like that play, for example, right, where he's stiff arming while also throwing the ball away / to Stephon Diggs. And go back to the chemistry is he's directing traffic to Diggs, to Booty, to all these people. He's telling them, hey, scramble drill, get upfield, scramble drill, come back to me, go to the side. He's directing traffic while he's doing all of this, which, again, just speaks to the maturity that he has. It speaks to the level of confidence that he has and the level of respect that the receivers have within him to be like, oh, he's telling me where to go. He sees something I can't. Let me go upfield if I'm Diggs. Let me go sideline and kind of just put the ball right there, so I don't get smashed if I'm Booty on the sidelines. It's coming together and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, it is nice to finally. It's nice to finally see because with the athleticism, there were no athletic plays in that sense week 1 against Vegas, and I know that was a criticism of mine and many others. Was it felt like Drake May was not being there was less. Not less. There was a shorter leash on allowing him to, I don't want to say ad-lib necessarily, but it felt like there was an emphasis on, hey, stay in the pocket, go through your progression, find the guy. And I'm sure Drake May can get there, but as you saw in the Bills game, aided by the fact that, he was under pressure, too often for my liking, but his ability to roll out to that side and do things and hit Diggs on multiple plays. The final drive, there was the toe tap play, which I think was that was at the end of the first half. I think that was to Demario Douglas, and then so it's allowing him to do that just opens up enough possibilities to where the defense is going to start to lose their assignments and not be able to account for certain guys in their positions on the field. And, it's nice to see that that's happening more because I think that the more he does that in appropriate settings, I think that that's just another element to this offense that teams you can't coach to, Drake May rolling out or Josh Allen rolling out or Patrick Mahomes rolling out of the pocket. You can't plan for that because, it's one of those things that, right. Yeah, it's a scheme. It's a scheme issue, right? So, it's nice to see that hopefully they can add that level of complexity that defenses can't account for that makes this offense more dangerous moving forward.
Yeah, I'd much rather have him be a pocket passer who can get out, use his legs if he has to, versus Lamar. Lamar is kind of a mix of both, but Justin Fields who can't throw, but
while he's learning the offense and finding his comfort in it, I think McDaniels learned that pretty early on after week 1 of let's use his strengths while he finds his comfort and while he learns and while he develops into being a better pocket passer and stuff like that.
It's kind of
he reminds me the comps. There's a lot of comps when you coming out of the draft that usually a lot of them don't end up being super accurate, but his being a mix of Herbert and Josh Allen, they seem to be kind of spot on. The more you watch him play, right? He's not as big as Josh Allen, but he really, the more he plays, the more we're watching. He reminds me of about 65% of Justin Herbert, with more of Josh Allen's ability, if that makes sense, in terms of making those erratic decision throws and off-platform throws. But he really is that weird combination of both of these guys. And hopefully he is a little bit more clutch than Justin Herbert. Nothing against Justin Herbert. I love the guy, but
not very clutch.
There is a chance that this is a rivalry of May versus Allen inside the division for the next decade that is going to be really, really fun to watch.
That'd be nice.
It will be nice. It will be really fun to watch and see how that all plays out. In terms of this weekend, I asked you, Ben, this question. And it's a little bit of a loaded question because it's not really a simple answer. But where does I think we all expect them to win, right? And anything other than a win is a failure.
Yeah.
But what level in terms of margin of victory, what level of win are you kind of expecting, and in what level of win do you think margin of victory here kind of really matters, in the sense of, okay, if they came out and they squeak out a victory where, they score to go ahead with 4 minutes left, 3 minutes left, and then they have to stop New Orleans from scoring, and that's how they win. Or, they kick a game-winning, they tie and they kick a game-winning field goal with a minute left, something like that, versus if they win by 10 points versus if they win by, 17 points. Do you guys feel like it's going to be a big difference coming out of the game in terms of like how they coming off this game, how we're kind of perceiving this team, and how it would be coming out of that New Orleans game, depending on how that played out?
Yeah, I think anything over 7 points I'll be happy with. Like, I'm not expecting them to go, full Carolina Panthers and hang 40 on them or whatever they scored. But over 7, right? Like, you're coming off. Now, part of this is both teams are still pretty inexperienced. We have probably a little bit more age and experience just because of all the defensive, players and things like that. But we're a pretty young offense, so I don't expect us to go, like I said, hang 50 on New Orleans. But over 7, that's not a good team. They're not a good defense. They're not a good offense. Spencer Rattler, they won last week, but they're just not a good team. So, yeah, I think if you have a similar win to last week where you're like battling, up until the final whistle, that might show that, like I said, there's a little bit more hype going into Buffalo, and you can kind of play up to your opponents, down to your opponents, things that I think bad teams do. So go out and win by 7. Go out and win by 10. Doesn't have to be running away. 27-17 is perfectly fine with me. Just don't make it a close game. Don't make stupid mistakes, mental errors. Don't fumble the ball, Ramondre Stevenson, whatever you do. I don't trust that you won't, but whatever. And get a touchdown pass, Drake May. You didn't have one last week. That's the only negative I have against you. If Hunter Henry turns his head around, there's a different story on the goal line right before the halftime. But, 10 points. Win by 10 and come home 4-2.
All right, Ben, how about you? I know you kind of gave me a little bit, but where's your thoughts?
Yeah, so for me, mine's, not an unexpected me answer. To me, it really comes down to like how they play, right? So say they go out there and they win 27-24, but they're constantly throughout the game, they're up by, 10, 13, like they're in that, somewhere, they're 2 scores up, somewhere between a touchdown and 2 touchdowns. If they're up, say, 27-17 and the Saints score a touchdown with, 40 seconds left and then just don't get the onside kick and the Pats get out of there with a 3-point victory, but like they were in control the entire game, then a 3-point win to me I'm not going to view that as a negative. Now, that's obviously different if it's the other way around where, the Pats are scrambling at the end and, they're playing a sloppy game and they have to kick a game-winning field goal, whether it's a go-ahead field goal late or as time expires, or they need a touchdown late to win it and they hold on. Like, obviously, if it's a tie game and you've played sloppy all game and, Drake May has another like late fourth quarter drive and you get a game-winning field goal, a win's a win, but you're like, all right, well, you played worse against a worse team on the road in a better, in a more, road friendly environment, if you will. Like, I'd rather play on the road in a dome than on the road in Buffalo. That would feel a lot different than, winning by 3, but only because the opposing team scored late to make it closer than it was. So for me, I'd be okay with anywhere, like any win's a win as long as they're doing things like controlling the line of scrimmage, control the time of possession, don't turn the ball over, not taking stupid penalties. So I guess for me, it's more so how they play. Like, I'd rather them, again, like win by 3 or 4 and play a clean game than have to then win by 3 or 4, but they had to score late to win a game because they played sloppy. I mean, I mentioned this earlier. Like the Saints have an opportunistic defense. I get that the Giants are not a good team, but the Saints force 5 turnovers. Again, Jackson Dart's a young quarterback. They don't have Malik Neighbors. Like Cam Scatterbo is a rookie running back, although he looks really good, but he's psychotic. Like they don't have like top options, right? They and I understand that they didn't have a top quarterback coming in, but they don't have their best offensive weapon. But to force 5 turnovers in the NFL, like it's the NFL. Like the New Orleans Saints aren't going to go to the playoffs. They're going to have a top draft pick, but if you force 5 turnovers in the NFL, like that says something about your defense.
They played Buffalo relatively hard the week before too. Like it wasn't until like the late third quarter range that Buffalo kind of started to pull away.
Yeah, so like I said, clean game. Don't take care of the football. To Zach's point, Ramondre, please keep the ball off the turf. Like please keep it in your arms. Like sleep with the football all week. I don't care what it takes for you to feel like it. It can't leave your arms.
Yeah. If you have to.
Yeah, and so little things like especially now with Gibson being out for the year with a torn ACL. Like I'd love to see Travion Henderson get mixed in more so that he can continue to learn. I know, from what you hear and read about, he still struggles in certain pass protection situations, and they're still a little bit concerned about his vision with the ball in his hands. But especially in a climate controlled environment against a team that is a winnable game, I'd love to see them get him some confidence, get him some plays that are successful. But again, clean game, no stupid penalties. I get penalties are part of the game, but you can't be taking stupid 15-yard personal foul penalties when James Cook is his knees on the ground and your teammate is celebrating a tackle for a loss. Like, and I do appreciate, like on that play, I do appreciate Vrabel coming to his defense, being like, well, we do teach our guys to play to the whistle, and there was no whistle. Like they hadn't blown the play dead yet. So like, I kind of see both sides of it, but like, do you really have to like decapitate the guy in front of the referee? Probably not.
No, it was a moronic play.
Yeah. So smart football, minimize the mental mistakes. And, I would love it if they could, have a repeat performance against the Bills. Like if they play as well as they did against Buffalo against an inferior team, the Patriots should win this game by 14, 17, 20 points. But, clean game and, no major injuries, and just come back, go back to Foxborough Sunday afternoon with a victory.
Yeah, it's like I said from the start, this is obviously a little bit of a loaded question because there's so many variances in how it could play out versus like the score. I just, similar to what you kind of said, Ben, it's not so much the final score, it's more about how they play. I just want to just see them show up. The Saints aren't a bad team in terms of like they're just like play god awful football, but they're just not a good football team. And so, no one on that offense generally scares you. Kamara is still a decent player, but he's not a guy that's going to break open games as much as he used to. Rattler is a guy that, at least so far this year, he's not really turning the ball over much. And what's his face? The head coach. I don't know. God, he was with Dallas and Philly.
Philly's old OC, right?
Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore. I kept wanting to say KC Moore, and I knew that wasn't right. Yeah, he's definitely calling a very conservative, approach for Rattler. I want to say Shitler right now because of but
speaking of which, you hear David Ortiz on Fox.
Yeah, he didn't know how to say it. They're like, we're not even going to teach you, but no, yeah, Rattler is. He's very conservative game for him, and he's not really turning the ball over, but he's not like doing a ton either. They got Shaheed, who can extend the field a little bit, so they got to be careful with him. But as a whole, like don't forget
about Chris Olave.
Yeah, but he's a guy that he's good, but if they put Gonzalez on him, I think that they could take care of him. They might put Shaheed on Gonzalez on Shaheed, and I don't know.
Yeah, and then
I don't know what they'll do.
And they'll have to scheme up a way to protect against Brandon Cooks.
Yeah, he's super scary these days. But anyways, yeah, no, it's more just come in, play good football, and if they do that, they should win. I don't even want to say just pure based on talent, because it's not like they have significantly more talent, but like they have the better O-line, not by a ton, but they have a better quarterback, they have a better defense, they have a better coaching staff. Like if they come in and play how they should, it's a game that they should just basically come in and be that little bit better team that puts up more points, that comes in and wins a game. Whether that ends up being by 7, 10, 13 points, somewhere in that range is what I expect. That's why I threw up the 27-17. Like that would be really what I expect. Maybe the Pats are up 24, 24-14, and each team swaps field goals or something like that over the final few minutes. In the games, the Pats ice the game with a few minutes left, and that kind of puts the dagger in the game, something like that. But that's really what it comes down to. Is like you said, Ben, is really just control the game. If they came in and blew the doors out of New Orleans, I really would not be shocked. But like to expect another Panthers game is obviously it's not.
The Panthers games, I'd be doubly shocked now. For sure.
Yeah, having said that, if the Patriots play like they did against Buffalo, and it's a cleaner game, right? Like no turnover from anybody, specifically Ramondre Stevenson. Is it out of the realm of possibility that, given how well the Pats defense has played, and that the Saints aren't exactly a great offense, like could you see this game being like 30-14, 31-7?
No, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Like I could see that, and like I would consider if you win a game 30-14, like that's a blowout in the NFL. So
when you think about it, like 20-17, like when you would win a game 27-17, like that, there's only like one or two plays in that game that stopped it from being a 30-14 game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's like quite literally, it's probably one or two plays that stopped it from being a field goal instead of a touchdown, and vice versa. So it's very possible that a 10-point game all of a sudden becomes a 16-point game, and we're looking at it as they went in and took care of business, won by 10 points versus they went in, won by 16 and they kind of not so much manhandled, but were the far superior team. So no, I wouldn't be entirely shocked, but I think we're all in agreement here that they should win easily.
Yeah, easily.
And without going too far in advance, Ben, like you mentioned, over the next 4 games, without going too far into the schedule, the next 4 games, they are the better team the next 4 games, plain and simple. They should win all of the next 4 games. Will they? I don't know. Do I expect them to? I'm going to say lean no. I'm going to, it's tough at this point with this team to say, I have the expectations that they go 4-0. I think that's pretty, a little bit premature and a little bit unrealistic. But they are the better team. So each game, at least at this point, I am going to say they should win this game, right? But again, will they win it? We went into the Pittsburgh game. They should win. Did they win it? No, they didn't win the Raiders game. I felt like they should win it, and they didn't. They should win all these 4, but will they? I don't know. And, if the Patriots could very, very, very easily be 6-3 heading into that Tampa Bay game. And if that's the case, I mean,
pretty good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, if we talked preseason and we said the Patriots are going to be 6-3 after 9 games, we would all be saying that is that is great. That
I wouldn't
is
put
as
money
good
on it,
as
but I'd be pumped.
that's as good as we could have realistically hoped for.
Yep.
At
100%.
that point. So, all right, we will wrap this up here. Do you guys have any final thoughts? Patriots thoughts? Any thoughts in general?
Josh McDaniels is the best thing that could have happened to Drake May and this team, especially this offense. Stephon Diggs is still an elite wide receiver, and the Red Sox need to add a power bat and a power number 2
Zach,
arm.
do you think the Patriots are 3-2 with Ben Johnson?
What's the Bears record right now?
I think they're 2-3.
2-3.
2-3.
I'm gonna say no because I think
they just had a bye week, so I think they're 2-2.
2-2. I'm gonna say no because I think part of the reason that they are 3-2 is Vrabel's tenacity and he preaches toughness. And I think that after the Steelers game, for example, I think that probably would have been a pretty oh shit moment. We have a running back, make a running back change. Probably would have been a lot of knee-jerk reactions, and I feel like Vrabel kind of steadies the ship and is all right, maybe too much so, but I think he's no, we're good. You messed up, just don't do it again. He kind of keeps things all copacetic.
All right, Ben, how about you?
Hard to say. I mean, I would say probably not. They might be 2-3. Different style of coaching. Ben Johnson, and I mean, who knows what the offensive scheme would look like if Ben Johnson was calling the shots, and had, the kind of say that Mike Vrabel does. But Ben Johnson likes to, as proven in Detroit, loves to run the offense through the running backs. Patriots don't have that kind of talent at running back compared to what he had in Detroit. Not that he has that, not that he has great running back talent in Chicago. But I don't know if they're 3-2, but I don't know. I wouldn't say that they're like a 1-4 team either. Final thoughts. I think the Patriots are going to be more disciplined this week. They had some uncharacteristically moronic penalties, and I'm gonna say they take it 28-20. I think it's the Saints are going to get a late score, and not get a chance to score again and get it closer. So I don't know if it's 28-17, they kick a field goal, and knowing that now they only need the touchdown and the 2-point, or if it's a touchdown to get it from 28-13 to 28-20. But I think the Patriots are going to control this game more, and they'll be more disciplined, and they'll. I know that 28-20 is not necessarily a convincing score, but I think they're going to win convincingly because I don't think the Saints offense is going to be effective enough to challenge the Patriots.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a pretty similar boat where I just think the Patriots are going to be a little bit better of a team. I could see a scenario where the Saints just really struggle to put up points if the Patriots play the way that they should defensively. They seem to be kind of starting to play some good, consistent football defensively. They played really well against Buffalo and kind of reining both James Cook and Josh Allen as a whole. So we'll see how things play out there. But we'll be back next week. Hopefully the Patriots are 4-2. Man, it feels a level of optimism in New England that we haven't had in about 5 or 6 years. Poor us, I guess. I saw someone post about May, and it was like, these fucking assholes. You know, they had a 2-decade dynasty, and all they had to do was suffer for 5 years, and now they got another star. Blah 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 blah.
Is it Stavros or Stavy on Twitter?
I forget who it was, but I was like, yeah, you know, maybe you should have drafted better. But
sucks to be you. I'm happy with
thank
mine.
you. Hey, shout out Chad Ryland. Thank you for missing that kick.
Yes.
If it wasn't for missing that kick, Drake May's probably a Patriot. I mean, probably a Giant, and we would probably have JJ McCarthy, which I'm still a little bit of a believer in. But I mean, we'll see what he ends up being. But
and thank you,
Drake
Bill,
May
for using
probably,
a 4th round pick to trade up for Chad Ryland as well. People forget.
Yeah. Shout out Bill Belichick. He's not going to be a North Carolina head coach soon.
No.
Yeah, he's on the outs there. That lasted a long time. But okay. Until next time, we are Raise the Banner. Goodbye.